Hello, good evening and welcome to Business Live. Coming up, former Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Kesel Atuforsen, cast doubts over Ghana closing a deal with the International Monetary Fund for an economic program by the end of the year.
I'm for a very quick IMF program. But I can assure you that November is not possible, December not possible. The earliest Ghana can have an IMF program, if we are committed to it, will be in the first quarter of 2023.
But the IMF has given assurance it will fast-track the process. Also, government begins consultation with stakeholders and civil society organizations towards the 2023 budget statement, which will be influenced by an agreement with the IMF.
The IMF engagement is a very important component in terms of preparing for the 2023 budget.
Also, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center says new opportunities are springing up for investors despite the current economic conditions.
And for us at the GIPC, investment is not an activity, it's a relationship. And through all the hard times and the good times, we have tried to ensure that that relationship is maintained.
This and more in the next 30 minutes with me, Beverly Broohm. Do stay with us. Hello again. Now, a former Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Kesel Atuforsen, is casting doubts over Ghana closing a deal with the International Monetary Fund for an economic program by end of year. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has indicated that government is working hard to close a program with the IMF by November this year. But speaking to Joy Business in Washington, D.C. at the just-ended annual IMF World Bank meeting, Dr. Forsen said Ghana can only secure a deal with the IMF by the first quarter of 2023.
The economy is not expanding at the levels that we can say we can grow out of our debt. You remember, one of the ways to deal with the unsustainable debt situation is to grow out of it. Yeah. But I can assure you, this snail pace of expansion cannot make you grow out of your debt. It can't. It can't. 4 point something for 1 quarter.
You think it's
not 1 quarter? Good? No, you want 4 point something is not for a year. It's for a quarter. Yeah. What was the last quarter? The first quarter's one is less than 4 point something. Going forward, nobody can project because inflation is going up. Things are getting worse. City is depreciating at an alarming rate. There are a lot more of layoffs because businesses are struggling. Revenue isn't coming in as expected. Certainly it will have impact on growth. So that kind of 4.8% you are talking about is certainly not sustainable in the course of the year. And it will not deliver the kind of growth that will push you to grow out of your debt. In fact, at the levels of our debt we are talking about, you need to grow around 8-10% before you can grow out of your debt. So it's too little. And you cannot grow out of your debt with 4 point something, even if you annualize it. That isn't the solution. The solution here is for the government to start the digging. Unfortunately, I've not seen them digging. The heavy liftings must start now. And if you fail to do the digging, the situation can only get worse. And I can see that the situation is getting worse. George, the storm has just begun. The storm has just begun.
You've been a prophet of doom.
No. Everybody has said that in the last few years, but in the end, whatever I say, whatever I say comes to pass. You are here. I've had the privilege to meet with other economists. I've met with the World Bank, African economists. I've met with other experts on the field. Ghana is not in a good shape.
Let's talk about the IMF. Let's talk about the fund program. Pushing for a program to be reached in November. When you engage the fund itself, well, they say all other things being equal, end of year. It appears you are not comfortable with that, or the minority is not comfortable because you think we are rushing the process and it will come with some shocks. You again admit about our current challenges. Doesn't that reinforce the argument of us fast-tracking the process?
I would wish Ghana fast-track it, and I'm for a very quick IMF program. But I can assure you that November is not possible, December not possible. The earliest Ghana can have an IMF program, if we are committed to it, will be in the first quarter of 2023.
What is the basis of these concerns? Because the fund itself has said that they are working towards that. Government also claims that the commitment that's supposed to be made they are prepared to make. That's what they are claiming.
Can I bet you, IMF is a diplomatic institution. What do you expect? Do you want them to expect that they will say next year? You see, first of all, you need to recognize that the fund cannot give you a program unless your debt is sustainable. We are going to confront ourselves with an unsustainable debt. I believe so. And I've said that you can toss it, delay the announcement, but in the end, your debt is unsustainable. And when you get yourself in that position, you need to take a decision as to what you have to do to bring your debt from unsustainable levels to sustainable levels. First, our debt is inching in 100% of GDP, inching towards that. To bring it to debt to GDP as a percentage of GDP to sustainable limit is 55. So you are talking of debt relief in a form of restructuring or common framework, approximately 40% of your GDP. And if that is what you have to do, then obviously you ask yourself, what can you do from now till December to be able to get to that? If you want to go through restructuring route, you will need more than 6 months. You will need more than 6 months to come to that determination. For you and I, who are government bond holders, to take a decision that we are accepting a haircut or some form of understanding with government, you will need some time.
Who's saying that the restructuring will touch our bonds? There are different forms the restructuring will take.
Judge, probably you are not reading well, but I can assure you that if you need a debt restructure in excess of 160 billion US Ghana cedis in the form of debt relief, you first of all need to ask yourself a question. Ghana's problem, how do we resolve it? Is it a case of liquidity or is it a case of insolvency? I think it's a case of insolvency. And if it's a case of insolvency, you cannot avoid a restructuring that includes coupon haircut and principal haircut. You can dispute it, but by the end of the next 3 months, you come to the table and say that I said that to you. And the expert will tell you that that is where we are inching towards. Let no one, create false impressions. I am expecting that the government comes out early. If they want an early IMF program, they have to expedite action on what they have to do to bring our debt to unsustainable sustainable limits.
Meanwhile, IMF has given assurance it will fast-track the process to provide the required support for Ghana. The head of the African Department, Abebe Selassie, disclosed this in response to questions asked by journalists during the African Economic Outlook report release in Washington, D.C.
An important element of our engagement with Ghana is going to be, but with any country, honestly, is going to be that making sure that when we provide resources, when we provide financing, the financing goes to help the country, goes to help its people. And if debt is unsustainable, the extent to which that can happen is, of course, very circumscribed. So part of the work that's ongoing right now is to assess what exactly the debt sustainability situation is, and how the government would like to address that once the work has been completed. So we're waiting for that assessment. I can tell you that, we're doing our utmost, and we will do our utmost to make sure that we can provide support to Ghana as speedily as possible. So that's why, as I noted earlier, within a few days of the government requesting support, we fielded a mission, and we will do our utmost to avoid any kind of delay in terms of how we can support. But there are important reforms that have to be articulated very clearly, and important initiatives also that have to be taken in terms of how the program can be financed, and then we'll move forward.
Government has begun consultation with stakeholders and civil society organizations towards the 2023 budget statement, which will be influenced by an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The meeting is part of processes by the Ministry of Finance to ensure that all important inputs from citizens are captured in the budget. Deputy Minister for Finance John Kuma has been explaining to Joy Business that although the budget will cover most of the IMF program initiatives, stakeholders must also be heard.
According to Deputy Minister of Finance Dr. John Kuma, an input from all stakeholders is needed to develop a financial plan for the next year amid a global economic crisis. He believes the engagement with stakeholders is critical as Ghana awaits the outcome of negotiations with the International Monetary Fund, IMF.
The IMF engagement is a very important component in terms of preparing for the 2023 budget. But that notwithstanding, we also want to hear from the public and from our various stakeholders their expectation on how, especially the current difficult global environment, should be managed in our current circumstances. Of course, there are various suggestions that we are hearing. So we'll find a way to incorporate that into the broader government financial program for the year 2023.
Dr. Kumar admits there would be difficulties as government prepares next year's budget.
Well, where we are now, there will be no solution without tightening our belt, because we are in tight situation. And the only way you stop digging when you are in a hole, the only way you stop going deeper when you are in a hole is to stop digging. And once you're stopping or cutting down your expenditures, obviously we are going to be faced with some difficult situations. So we must all live up to that reality that we are not in normal times.
Inputs from the various organizations will be part of government's short to medium-term budget planning.
Well, away from that, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center says new opportunities are springing up for investors regardless of the current economic conditions. According to Chief Executive Officer Yofi Grant, his outfit is engaging more investors to shore up foreign direct investment. Speaking to Joy Business at the GIPC Club 100 Awards, he called for more private-public partnerships. James Shen has more in this report.
The Ghana Investment Promotion Center ranked ZPay as #1 in an annual compilation of the top 100 companies in Ghana to give due recognition to successful enterprise building. The rankings were based on vigorous exercise that focused on size, profitability, and growth of companies in the year under review. Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, commended the private sector for their immense support in saving the Ghanaian economy in the midst of the COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war.
We have survived. And the private sector in Ghana has had to change significantly to accommodate the exigencies of the pandemic and what has happened thereafter. Entrepreneurs and businesses were compelled to seek out and adopt new strategies to modify their business operations to remain productive and stable and to grow. From the ways work was conducted to where the workforce was conducted, it is safe to say that virtual work and other innovations have become the new normal. And for us at the GIPC, investment is not an activity, it's a relationship. And through all the hard times and the good times, we have tried to ensure that that relationship is maintained.
On this part, Senior Advisor to the President, Yao Osafo said more investment in the private sector of the economy will help the country recover from global shocks.
We can see signs of recovery, and we are happy to say that the revitalization and transformation phase from 2021 to 2023 aims at embracing productive sectors of the economy via competitive import substitution and economic diversification. The phase is grouped into implementation clusters as follows. 1. Supporting commercial farming and attracting educated youth onto agriculture. 2. Developing engineering tools and digital economy industries. 3. Fast-tracking digitalization. 4. Building Ghana's light manufacturing sector. 5. Developing Ghana's housing and construction industry. 6. Developing a vibrant tourism industry in Ghana. 7. Periodically reviewing and optimizing the implementation of government flagship and key programs, and to ultimately establish Ghana as a regional industrial hub for West Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition, government is also working hard to improve the infrastructure in our cities, roads, railways, ports, aviation, communication, as well as the rural areas, where we must add value to our time and make it easier to do business in our country.
The Multimedia Group Limited was presented with a certificate for its immense contribution and providing an extensive coverage for the annual awards. This year's event is on the theme Ghana's Private Sector, a catalyst for post-pandemic economic transformation.
Now, the youth have been urged to choose the Labour Department as their first option in their quest for jobs. Many people, especially the youth, have become victims of fraudulent job opportunities in Ghana and Europe, with some perishing in the process. Speaking during an awareness campaign exercise in Sunyani by GIZ and the Labour Department, Bono Regional Labour Officer Isaac Malma Kaminta said guidance from the Labour Department will help end irregular migration and the dangers faced by the youth. Precious Semevo has more.
Bono region is a migration-prone area due to youth unemployment. According to the 2021 Ghana Statistical Service report, 1 in every 3 young adults is unemployed. They fall victim to middlemen with a promise of jobs in Ghana or travel outside the country, resulting in deaths and sexual exploitations. To help deal with the situation, the German Development Corporation GIZ and Labour Department of the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations embarked on an awareness campaign exercise in Sunyani to, among others, sensitize the public on the work and functions of the Labour Department in employment support for job seekers. Bono Regional Labour Officer Isaac Malma Kaminta wants the youth to consider the Labour Department as their first option to help save them from the dangers associated with irregular migration.
Labour Department exists to help job seekers find suitable employment as well as help employers to find suitable applicants to fill their vacancies. And also, even if you come to our offices and you don't want a formal employment, there are opportunities available that we can support you to start your own business with the support from GIZ, and also to train people with some basic skills.
GIZ, through the Migration and Employment Promotion Project, is collaborating with the Labour Department to build capacity, improve infrastructure, promote employment and raise awareness. Joshua Hiaba is the Bono Regional Advisor for the project.
Since the Labour Department plays a very important role in employment promotion, the Migration and Employment Promotion Project of GIZ is working around the clock to empower the Labour Department to be able to function effectively. And through that, we are rebranding some of their offices. We are building 2 new regional offices in Goso and Techiman. Only 7% of the public knew about the Labour Department and what they do. So this activity we are doing today is actually to sensitize the entire public about the Labour Department and the functions and their roles that they play. And more importantly, direct young people, job seekers, to the Labour Department to actually solicit for the needed help.
The campaign is on the theme, promoting employability and employment in Ghana. Our youth, our jobs, our future. Precious Semevo, Joy News, Sunyani.
We take a quick break here on Business Live. We'll be back with more. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Business Live. Now, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, has commenced the 2022 Annual Export School Program in Kumasi to acquaint Ghanaians with export marketing fundamentals and networking opportunities. Participants of the 5 contracts and negotiations, international trade participation, packaging, labeling and branding. The school is in line with the implementation of the National Export Development Strategy.
The GEPA Export School consists of potential exporters, product associations, financial institutions, senior and middle-level managers of exported-oriented firms and SMEs. Deputy CEO at the authority, Albert Kasim Diura, says the Export School program will facilitate the implementation of the National Export Development Strategy. The strategy thrives on 3 pillars of building the capacity of participants, providing an enabling environment, and expanding the supply chain. He encouraged the youth to take advantage of the opportunity to explore the export market.
The standards, things keep evolving, keep changing. And so if we don't build the capacity of exporters to meet the changing demands, they may fall short along the line. If we get it right in export in this country, what it means to the development of this economy, especially the strengthening of our Ghanaian city. And so we encourage everybody, the youth, please take up this business seriously. If you've complete school and you think that government have no job, with export, you can create your own job and even employ others.
Assistant Commissioner of the Immigration Service, Constant Boateng, disclosed the readiness of the service to assist exporters in their efforts.
They are everywhere. So our doors, we were 24/7. And we also, in addition to that, we have migration information centers. So these are offices that we open 24/7 to engage potential travelers.
Entrepreneur and participant Melvin Bankhead, who aims to export fruits to the U.S., expressed his eagerness to complete the workshop. He believes the workshop would offer him the opportunity to be abreast of the fundamentals of exportation.
So I would like to learn a lot because my background is in cybersecurity and it's way different from what export and import is. So my expectation is to get to learn the basics and every possible fundamental that comes with exports.
Clinton Yabua's report for Joy News.
Away from that, President of Regional Managers of Credit Union, Abraham Dakura, has called on the government to include credit unions in the banking space. He says that in other countries, credit unions drive the clearing system, noting that governments over the years have relegated them to the background. Abraham Dakura made the call at the celebration of the International Credit Unions Day in Wa. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam Hasmo.
Credit Union Day exists to raise awareness and celebrate what makes credit unions unique. This year's theme looks towards empowering members and community to build a better financial future with a credit union. Credit unions are financial cooperatives set up by members who own and control them for their social and economic well-being. The concept of credit union in Africa started at Jiruba in 1955 by Reverend Father John McNulty. 67 years on, the Upper West region today is host to 12 credit unions with a membership of 43,808. Members of the various credit unions in observing the day in the Upper West region walked through some principal streets in the Wa municipality and ended at the Wa St. Andrew's Cathedral, where they were addressed by leadership of the various credit unions.
We need to have confidence in the credit union. We need to trust that the credit union is what can support our financial needs.
Supervisor Manager of the World Community Cooperative Credit Union, Abraham Dakura, who also doubles as the president of the Regional Managers Association, underscored the importance of credit unions, warning that any attempt to close them down will incur the wrath of the people. It's been rumored that government is planning to close down credit unions.
A credit union cannot be closed by anybody. Even if there's malfeasance in a credit union, detailed investigation has to be done, and the Department of Cooperatives, which is the body that regulates the credit unions, will then go through a process to get the credit union officially closed down. But apart from malfeasance, which is predominantly a staff-related issue.
And that's how we wrap up the show tonight. Thank you so much for your company. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Beverly Broohm. Enjoy the rest of our programs.